In reality, F1 had moved on from the ring by 1978, but we were just a couple years shy of seeing ground effects cars tackling this amazing circuit. Instead, we'll see a virtual recreation of what might have happened as we get ready to watch round 3 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. There's a lot to go over here, so let's get a quick glance at the Nordschleife with our track guide. Welcome to the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Most modern high-end series might use the GP circuit nowadays, but it will certainly never hold the respect and awe that the Northern Loop commands. Though it can be and is usually used in conjunction with the Grand Prix circuit for competitions in real life, here on iRacing, drivers can harken back to a time gone by and just run the 13-mile behemoth this place is known for. Nicknamed the Green Hell by three-time F1 world champion Sir Jackie Stewart, it is often regarded as the greatest test of a driver anywhere on the planet. Just looking at the stats will tell you why. More than 150 turns and close to 1,000 feet in elevation will pass you by in a single lap. Simply memorizing the course is half the battle for most drivers, let alone being fast. It goes without saying that this place is dangerous. Many fast corners lack runoff, there's blind apexes everywhere, and in a couple cases, even modern cars will get airborne. The list of famous turns is pretty lengthy, but some of the more notorious are places such as Flugplatz, Miss Hit Miss, Bravery Corner, and of course, the ever-iconic Carousel. It's not just the places where you've got to move the wheel that get attention too. The Dottinger Hoa stretches for more than 1.5 miles in length. While you would think this circuit would mainly be limited to the track days most gearheads flock to for a chance to lap the ring, it still sees quite a bit of wheel-to-wheel combat. The 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, the VLN Series, and the World Touring Car Championship all still take to the track to this day. Many race fans consider this the mecca of road racing, and any driver who is able to push the limits here often quickly garners their respect. I've already been here once this weekend, Joey, but we get a second dose of the ring this morning.
Yeah, we just took a little nap overnight and we're back with the more modern cars. Nürburgring Nordschleife, 154 turns, 12.94 miles, or just a shy tick under 21 kilometers. And it's all about racing the racetrack here, especially in these open wheel cars. Be careful of the bumps, be careful of the tall curbs, and be especially careful of those very, very close guardrails.
We are a bit short on time, so let's just take a quick glance at our championships this season. It's early on, so not much to talk about. And Lino has 2 straight wins, while Juho Raina has 2 straight second places behind him. So you only see 6 points between them. That is the F1 driver standings. We also have the F2 standings where Pedro Marquez is currently up ahead of Janne Lehmann. Bjorn Ackerman trailing behind a bit, but he's usually around quite often, so I wouldn't doubt that he'll be in there for the hunt. And the Classic Teams Championship sees Fittipaldi currently leading right now over ATS and Othello, as well as the others. Real quick, Joey, why don't you run us through the race details?
Yeah, sitting here, I believe this is round number 3 of 12. Going to be doing 6 laps around the Nordschleife. Open setup as always. We're going to see who trimmed out those wings at the Dottinger Hoa. No spare car. A drive-through penalty at 17x, disqualification at 25x, but it's all about the damage limitation here.
Real quick, let's glance over the grid. Cortinemi on the pole. Mikko Leino a little farther down. You've got Gernot Friesche also, as usual, not on the top spots, but looking quick here. There is your top 10 as we glance down at the next 10 of our 24 runners. Janne Lehmann, unfortunately, unable to put a good time in, while Rolly Wallbank as well, and Barry West will have to try and climb through here from towards the back of the field. And then our last 4 sees Karthik Pai as our final driver on this grid, and the cars are just about lined up here today. So looks like we are getting ready to go for today's event with seconds left before the engines start to rev in round 3 of this season. There it is. The engines are now revving, ready to go with the lights up. It's a long hold, but the green flag is out. And it's a poor start from third place. It looks like Steve Bycroft unable to get the car going. He loses a position or two, maybe even 3 of them as they fly down through Sabine Schmitz. But everybody very orderly through that left-hander.
It was Steve Bycroft that did not get the traction off the line. Nathan Finnegan was able to jump up 2 positions into that 4th spot. But yes, a lot of single file, and we got to remember they have little itty-bitty tires on the front of this car. It takes a corner or 2 to get them all up to temperature.
So far, so good. I'm not seeing any wrecks through the field at the start of this. Hopefully they can get spread apart before we get any sort of problems. Now, as we watch Topi Kortsanimi head over Flugplatz, unlike the Lotus 49s, we're not going to see these cars getting air, though they definitely will get incredible speed. Same engine in the back of this car as the 60s machinery that we watched yesterday.
I think that they produced plenty of speed to go airborne, but you're right, the aerodynamics, they have finally kind of figured out how they work. So the wings, extremely efficient. The undersides of these cars, that's where they make the majority of the downforce. So you have to be really careful about these curbs like you see on drivers right here. I believe that's Karthik Pai going up the inside. Always nice to see Pai back here in the series. It's been a little while since I've seen this yellow car.
Yeah, and the Texan driver is up to 18th after starting dead last on the field. What a run. We're barely into the start of the lap as we see the sparks fly off the bottoms of these cars. Hopefully, the bumps aren't too bad that they will damage the underside. That is such a critical part to the downforce of this machine.
And I think it's always up to these drivers as you see Pai get a tremendous run coming out of the corner. He's going to easily sail by that car just off to his right. That was Barry West that he just drove by. But I was going to make a comment about the ride heights. It is an open setup, so if the cars are bottoming out too much or the track surface is too rough, I feel like these competitors should have at least tuned that in, and Pai continues his charge. The next one up is going to be Daniel Gallus, who's already all over the back of.
Yeah, it's looking clear to me that Karthik was slightly out of position from that starting point. He is on a charge as we check out Bjorn Ackerman, one of our F2 drivers, in a big battle with this is Timothy Vandenberg just in front of him. Vandenberg slides down through Brideside, and Nathaniel Croker looks like he's had a serious problem into Defense Valley along with somebody else. I can't see who that is, though.
Yeah, and I think that Robert Simpkins is actually stuck, and his buddy's going to try to knock him off of the curb gently right here. We were just talking about the ride heights, and you can cause damage. Well, this is the other thing. You can get high-centered. That's how tall those curbs are.
I mean, that is fantastic from Nathaniel, sacrificing his own car as well some, because no doubt the nose is going to get damaged from that. But unfortunately for him, and after he went and did that, Robert's car is too damaged to continue.
It's such a shame, but you know what? I'm sure they're probably giggling about it. They were a little bit off the back end anyways, but this is a battle between Bjorn Ackerman and Timothy Vandenberg. Now, Timothy had given up the spot to Bjorn a handful of corners ago, but then going on the uphill, Timothy Vandenberg just took advantage of the draft, and the slipstream went right back on by that number 21.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that on these long straights. These cars punch such a huge hole in the air. Let's take a look at Karthik Pai's start and see how he got so many cars at the beginning. I wonder if we had some start from pit lane. Does look like there's a couple openings in there, so that might explain a few of the spots right there. But man, round the outside, already the launch was phenomenal. Finds an opening again around the outside, down through Sabine Schmitz. 1, 2, and 3 in a single corner. Everything's bigger in Texas, including the appetite of Karthik.
And everybody's just lined up single file for the taking, so I have a feeling that on the cold tires, just the confidence from Pai, it might be a little while since we've seen him in a broadcast race, but obviously still has plenty of speed. He's right actually on the back of Daniel Gallus, and Daniel Gallus is kind of in a little bit of a draft train right now, so plenty more positions are available for Pi. We're only on lap 1 and really about 2/3 of the way through the first lap.
That's the second slide we've seen out of Vandenberg here, up over the hill out of Ice Curve. And Gary Ho has just had a problem behind them. Looks like he's got the car going in the grass. He pulls to a halt, or is he just waiting for an opening? I think he might be waiting for an opening. Nope.
No, and I think he's going to go ahead and retire. Yeah, we see him hit the reset. I went ahead and went back and looked at it. It was all by himself. It wasn't any contact from any other car, but he did make impact with that driver left tire barrier.
Such a shame. Oh, speaking of making impact, Gallus just gets into the back of Jana Lehman. That's going to slow him up enough that Karthik Pai tries around the outside up into Gallows Hill, nearly puts his tires into the dirt. He'll have to try again on the Dadi Nurhoa.
This is a pretty interesting little train because you got Gallus, Pai, Barry West, the Big Cat, Rolly Wallbank, Adam Klatska. There's a whole bunch of familiar names as Bjorn Ackerman is just using the draft behind Timothy Vandenberg. And remember, I made the comment that Vandenberg just drafted by him on the uphill. Look at the speed difference. He's in front of Ackerman and has 4 miles an hour faster on the top end.
Wow. I'm going to put the pieces together. The sliding around and the top speed, I get the sense that Timothy has turned that wing down to its utmost in comparison to Bjorn.
I think so. I think that's a fair guess. And here at the Nürburgring, the straights are long enough that you can take advantage as long as the mechanical grip is stable enough and the driver is confident. You can get away with it as Jack David Spickett is trying the 2 wheels in the grass method.
I mean, he is on the wheel. I don't know if we saw that pass fully, but down through Sabine Schmitz, he sent it in there trying to get by Gernot Friesche. Gernot looking not quite as quick here. Not sure if something's happened to the car or if he just isn't quite feeling as confident in it yet. He's down to 7th, whereas he started from 5th.
One of the things that we're always going to be guessing about, you had mentioned it earlier, is the potential damage from scraping the underside of these cars. If you go bounding up over a curb or even hit, a big pothole wrong, it could potentially do some damage as Pai is, he's so close. He's looking to the inside of Gallus. He's definitely the fastest of these 3 cars, but he just needs to find a way around. This is a potential opportunity if he can go late on the brakes here in this next corner.
Ooh, up in front of him, Gallus is gaining, but Lehman holds the inside through the Swedish cross. Oh, big defense and maybe a little bit of contact between Daniel and Karthik. Down into Ehrenberg. He is still right on top of him, hoping to try and find a way by. Look at how narrow it is. There is just no room.
And he's hoping that the spotter is saying, car right, because that is what Pai is relying on with Daniel Gallus. That number 16 is getting about as wide as you can make it, and you put it right in the middle of the racetrack. It's going to frustrate Pai here soon enough.
I have to imagine at some point the speed is so much better, it seems like, for that number 6 that he's going to be able to sneak through as they come down into Metzgefeld. Not quite close enough there. He seems to think so as he almost shows his way to the inside.
I think one of the reasons why it's so aggressive is just that he's got so much more speed on the entry. He's more confident in either knowing the racetrack or the grip level that the Lotus is giving him, but either way, I agree, Joe. It's only going to be a matter of a couple corners before he finds a way by, or maybe Gallus even might make a mistake.
Down into Defense Valley. That could be the mistake right there as he again goes wide. And coming up around the outside of the next corner, Karthik Pai now has his nose ahead. It's a left-hander down into Brideside. And that is it. So the number 6, and even worse of a mistake as slipping off into the barrier. Daniel Gallus causes everybody behind to scatter.
Thankfully, nobody else made any contact. You see the big 270 zip it around. Very nicely done. Must be a part-time drifter in his other job, Joe.
I mean, it's a good thing he did it that way. I was worried he would try and drive over that curb and we'd have our second high center of the day. Back to Bjorn Ackerman. Oh, we are not short of action here today. We're only on lap 2. Bjorn Ackerman versus Vandenberg. This has been going on for some time, and Bjorn can't seem to get by, but there is that extra downforce helping him up through Bravery Corner. It's just not enough, despite the momentum he gained.
It's a little bit silly watching it, and we always talk about the accordion effect on restarts. Well, the accordion effect is live and well here with the different downforce levels. Ackerman just closes it in the corners, can't do anything with it. He gets spit out in the carousel. That's the one thing you got to be careful of in that corner. If you go in too hard and too fast, it can spit you out over the top.
He's very lucky he did not wind up in the Armco there, but he'll carry on. Just has to make up about a second and a half on Vandenberg. I imagine these twisty bits up through here should allow him to close that down. Meanwhile, Nathan Finnegan has moved up into fourth past Steve Bycroft. Now, this surprises me because Steve Bycroft is definitely one of those ring specialists. He is almost always in the hunt for the win when Lotus 79 comes here.
Well, and to that point, he's got even more company now in the form of Jack David Spickett. So you're right, the driver that qualified third has slipped back to fifth, is now in danger of going back even one more. And there's a spin from Nathan Finnegan in front. So move these two up a spot. And I wonder, is he actually in the wall there? Is he going to continue on?
He's trying to get it turned around, and it looks like he will be able to get it going with others staying safe, just kind of nipping by. Finnegan falls all the way from 4th to 15th. That is going to be a hard one to make those positions back up. But JDS versus Steve Bycroft now as we watch them complete the lap.
JDS with a tremendous run, but coming up here to this mini carousel, you can't really do much with it. Steve kind of gets spit out at the end. Once again, it's just going to come down to the Dottinger-Hoa, who's got the higher end top speed, who's trimmed out the wing, and this is going to be a great example of it.
You're trying to tell the difference between these cars. Bycroft is the yellow machine with the blue rim kind of around the cockpit there. Jack David Spickett is the full yellow car. But Steve Bycroft is looking strong as they're off in the distance. He just skitters away from JDS despite the slipstream.
I had said that there was a 4 mile an hour or 5 mile an hour difference between Vandenberg and Ackerman. Look at this, 8 miles an hour between JDS and Steve Bycroft up front. And I know that JDS kind of brings some alternative setups. It doesn't matter the racetrack. Sometimes he brings low downforce, sometimes he brings high downforce, sometimes it pays off for him and other times it doesn't. But either way, it always makes for an interesting race. And I think here at the Nürburgring, the grand scheme of things, he's going to have a fast race car.
So here's Finnegan. And let's see what sent him off. He had just taken this position not that long ago. And I think, trying to figure out exactly where this is. This is through Brunchen. And then he's coming up to the ice curve. This one is always tricky. The name kind of says it all. And he touches the curb, spins it over the crest, and he didn't hit the wall, Joey.
Yeah, and you know what? Tip of the cap to Nathan, because look, he didn't back it up on the racetrack. He used the grass to get back going, so didn't involve anybody else in his kind of little mistake there. So great job from Finnegan as JDS wasn't able to find a way by on the straightaway with the slower top-end speed. He's not going to be able to find a way by on this straightaway. It's going to have to be from the twisty bits.
And that's the frustrating thing. Once he gets by, if he can find a way through all the curvy parts of the track, Joey, he's going to have to run away quickly because once they get to the straightaways, Steve could just blow past with ease.
It's kind of what makes a fast race car versus what makes a fast qualifying car, right? In the race, you need to be able to go fast down the straightaways, and in situations like this, if you have the track position like Steve Bycroft does, it makes it incredibly difficult for this car that potentially is a little bit faster behind you to actually make the pass. That is a great example of a difference between a fast race car and a fast car.
Well, so you'll see little bobbles and corrections from each of these drivers through this portion, especially from Steve, considering he's got a car that's much quicker in a straight line. And Jack David Spickett is going to have to see if this is an area where he can get through. If he can distance himself before they get to Kesselchen, which is going to be the next long, fast uphill straight, then he could maybe run away. But he's running out of time here. This is through miss, hit, miss, and down into the Defense Valley. I always thought this is one of the hardest braking zones. You can see the cars trying to turn and brake at the same time, lighting up the tires. Steve Bycroft on the limit.
And, you know, we're dissecting this, and I think that there is too much of a low downforce setup or too high of a downforce setup. You can't swing the bat too far either way, and I know that JDS is all over the back right here, but after this next uphill right-hander, all that's going to happen is Bycroft is going to put his right foot down and say, see you later to JDS, barring no mistakes. And the same thing's going to happen right here between Ackerman and Vandenberg.
Yeah, sorry, as we cut away there, Steve actually had a bit of a slide. I thought he was going to give that spot away. We check in on Vandenberg versus Ackerman. Both have been gaining little positions here and there while others fall by the wayside. A valid strategy at the Nürburgring. But Timothy still ahead of Bjorn. And they're going to come up to Bravery Corner. We've seen Bjorn kind of close
there's
in
a
on him
huge wreck. Bycroft just took out JDS, and it's going to be right in front of this pair. So they are going to be coming up at speed. There you see Vandenberg and Ackerman. But those two yellow cars, definitely heavy damage, and Bycroft is out.
Well, there's the other danger of that low downforce setup, because I think he did that on his own, but collected poor Jack David Spickett, who's actually still running, so I'm not sure. Oh, no, and Bjorn Ackerman off, and he really can't get through there. Oh, I was going to say, don't get it stuck. He looks a little eager to get out of there, maybe upset with himself.
Oh, no, and now JDS has just spun all by himself as well. What has happened to the middle of the top 10 right now? Bycroft, JDS, Ackerman, all having problems in the span of, the 15 corners altogether?
You know what happened, Joey? The Nürburgring happened. This is the track that plays no favorites. And even if you think you've got this thing mastered, at 150 plus corners, it's easy to screw up even one of them the tiniest bit and pay for it.
I totally get it, and yeah, it's a perfect example of it. And Jack David Spickett, who was way up there in fourth place with a bunch of buddies around, has now lost a lot of track position. Chasing Gernot Frische, chasing Timothy Vandenberg. Ryan Turkett is right on the back of him, so that's the green car that's actually right behind Jack David Spickett right now. A great opportunity for that number 20. He's actually moved up +4 positions so far.
And you mentioned his name. Here I was kind of being a little bit critical of Gernot Frische falling from 5th to 7th. He's now up to 4th because of others simply falling by the wayside. Now, I think this is going to be Steve Bycroft's accident. They call it Bravery Corner. It takes some bravery, but also some skill. And Steve maybe ran out of a bit of it as the car gets just spit into the barrier. And JDS could not avoid. That probably did enough damage that I imagine that's what caused his later spin.
It just, when it rains, it pours out there on the racetrack. Here is Jack David Spickett. So he is going down the Dottinger Hoa right now, the big, long front straightaway. But once again, that higher downforce setup that he's using, it's allowing that green number 20 to close in. And I think that Ryan might actually be close enough by the end of the straightaway that he can make a move. Jack David Spickett is pretty much just a sitting duck, and there goes by Ryan Turkett for 6th place.
Yep, that looks like that was with relative ease, although now that he's ahead of him, the slipstream's kind of helping him back, but he's run out of track. So there's the pass done for Ryan up into 6th. Now let's take a look at our second replay here where JDS got further damage. Let's see if the car gets away from him. No, I think that was more on the curb, if anything.
I saw the exit curb, but that replay showed a different story. It was apex curb that bounced him out onto the exit curb. Double whammy.
Man, you cannot flirt with the curbs here too much in this car. You can see what happens. Ryan is actually back behind Jack David Spickett, who got past him somewhere in these twisty bits. They're probably fired up now after all that's happened to him, and that's put him back into that 6th position. But here we go again, on to the run from essentially High Oaks down to the Swedish Cross, where they're flat out the whole time.
And I think that Jack David Spickett has gotten away with one. His sector times are actually tracking to the good right now, which shows that his car is very fast. This is still Karthik Pai working his way up and around all of these different drivers on the back of Jean-Francois Boscus right now.
On board with Karthik Pai. as we watch him continue to try his climb up the field. This would crack him into the top 10. And under braking, looks strong, but not quite strong enough to get side by side with the number 12 Ferrari down out of Ehrenberg towards compression. And with these cars, they really will compress down into the track. They're already so low slung, but watch this left-hander here into Adenauer Forest. Blind into there. They can't touch that curb, but then they have to slow the car down as it weaves back and forth.
Got to make sure to be able to put the power down right here as well, because it's not necessarily a straightaway, but I'm looking at the MPHs and up to 160, 165 miles an hour before they have to lift off of the gas through the sweeping double left-hander here, and now kind of at the top of the hill. This part always finds me in a guardrail, Joe. You start going downhill, you start building the speed, you can't see around the next turn. I got no idea what's going on.
Yeah, that turn is called Callan-Hard, and it is unforgiving. As they go nose to tail through miss, hit, miss. And he's not going to be able to stick his nose in down through Defense Valley either. Late apex through that corner, switching back and getting onto the throttle. Great defense from Jean-Francois, who has been holding Karthik Pai up.
And I think that actually both of these cars have a lot of pace, because Jean-Francois Boscus, his last lap time, a 6:06, that puts him pretty much right in the top 5. Karthik Pai is at a 6:04, so you got to wonder how fast Pai really is if he's not being held up. He thought about a moment right there, but it's just not typically a passing opportunity. Going to try to find a new way around, use the slipstream a little bit more, but this is where things start to get a little bit nervous.
Especially if they try to go side by side. You can see how much the track weaves back and forth. He is gaining on him slightly, but their speed is almost dead even with one another. As they climb up the hill, we hop on board with Karthik Pai and up through Bravery Corner. Yeah, you could hear just the tiniest of lift from on board.
I think he was just trying to keep limiting the understeer there, right? Because he's so close behind this car. Oh, and almost gets into the back of him there, into the brake zone. Can he put the power down? Now he does get into the back of him. I wonder if Jean-Francois, yes, he was trying to let Karthik Pai by, and it was just a little bit of a miscommunication. That shows you how narrow this racetrack really is.
Yeah, he's in survival mode here. He knows that Karthik is eager to get through, but nothing doing at this stage at least. So Jean-Francois Boscus back to 11. Karthik Pai up 14 positions. Bjorn Ackerman now versus John Olsen. Bjorn having managed disposing of his rival from before and is already on top of this blue number 8.
Ackerman has been very aggressive through all of the infield sections, you know, and I feel like maybe down the straightaways is just kind of his weak point, similar to what we saw out of JDS earlier. So I think if you're trying to have confidence in the car, if you want to be more aggressive and showing yourself in the mirror, definitely the higher downforce setup allows you to do that. However, you can overstep the limit like we've seen out of Ackerman a couple times. Remember, going into the carousel, it's been twice that he's been spit out of that thing. So sometimes you actually have to go slower in order to go faster.
That's a good point. And right now, as he comes up to the back of his rival, up through the Beloff S's. And yeah, survival mode is in full force for a number of drivers, as John Olsen definitely let that one go.
Ooh. And I'm just watching the attitude from Ackerman. He just got spit out of the mini carousel as we slip away to our leader. So just the aggression level out of that number 21 is cranked up to 11 right now.
Yeah, I get the sense, and this is just a wild guess, that Bjorn is overdriving the car a little bit.
I think so. But, you know, he's right on the back of John Olsen again, and he's going to go by him on the Dottinger Hoa. And so Topi Kortiniemi, who we're watching right now, has just been setting the world on fire. A 5:52 the last lap time, the fastest lap time out of anybody. Juho Raina is just a cool 7.5 seconds behind. The third place car, the last on the podium, Mikko Leino, is 12.5 seconds behind Juho Raina. So yeah, this car is just kind of taking off.
Yeah, I mean, we've only got, well, now a couple more are ducking under that 6-minute mark. Looks like Jack David Spickett did. These cars do go quicker as the fuel burns off, so maybe we'll see more and more of them be able to cut down on those lap times. We're down to 2 laps to go. Miko, who came into this one leading the championship, doesn't look like he's going to be on for a 3rd win in a row, but never say never.
Pretty curious to see Timothy Vandenberg close up on Gernot Frische here. It's something we'll have to keep an eye on. And then also JDS, I saw that yellow car creeping in, and that's actually the fastest of the trio. The other one that's kind of intriguing my kind of brain right now is Karthik Pai, because this is going to be the first lap that he's actually going to have clean air. Nobody in front of him. He's got 5 seconds up to John Olsen. So I wonder if he is able to crack that 6-minute lap barrier as well.
Yeah, so Bjorn got by John. Is Karthik going to be able to do the same within a lap's time as we check on Timothy Vandenberg versus versus Gernot Frische, actually, just in front of him. So this is for 4th position. But Gernot's approach seems to be a steady car that might not be quick, but we haven't seen put a foot wrong at this point.
Been a little bit of a lonely race for Gernot. I think he'll probably be okay with it. I think a lesser stress environment at the Nürburgring is always a good thing. So I think Timothy Vandenberg coming up in the mirror, Gernot's plenty aware of him. And I think if he gets too aggressive, we might see some cooperation. But on the other side, Gernot Frische is kind of an immovable rock, and there's not very many places to pass here.
Certainly. We'll see what Timothy does. At least he knows that there's a lot of trust there in Gernot Frische, multiple championships, so he knows what he's doing, and he's a fair racer. This is Nick Bell down in 15th. Haven't covered those in the back quite as much. He's facing off with Adam Klatska down there in the 22 car. Both of them 5 and 6 positions in this race. Again, if you just finish at the Nürburgring, often you're going to see a net gain.
And kind of to that point, just like what we saw yesterday in the Lotus 49s, there's no real big comers and goers. It is everybody net up positions. If you're falling down at the Nürburgring, you've most likely ended up in a wall and you are no longer running.
The only driver I see that's still running that has lost positions is Gary Ho, who somehow managed to get the car repaired and is back into it. Ooh, gotta be careful into that left-hander. Nick Bell just about plowing into the rear wing of Adam.
Now it's just going to be trying to recollect that little bit of a lost time from that lockup, and thankfully it's coming up to a little bit of a longer straightaway section, especially with the uphill. It's always nice to get in that slipstream, and Nick is only about 0.6 behind Klatska right now, and in these cars in iRacing, I would expect here at the Nürburgring at least 1 second, maybe even up to 1.5. We saw in upwards of 2.2 seconds yesterday with those Lotus 49s, but they make the downforce and push the air a little bit differently than these cars do.
Exactly. They're quick in a straight line, but once they get up to that top speed, they definitely cut a huge hole in there. These things, it's a constant hole in the air no matter where you are in terms of speed, just because of all the downforce that is produced. And it's not just from that under tray on the car that you get that downforce. These big wings do have an effect on them for sure. But Nick Bell looks like he's fallen off the back of Adam ever since he had that close moment with him, so he'll have to regroup and get back in there.
I've been keeping my eye on the Frische Vandenberg Spigot situation, and actually it's been Vandenberg that's fallen off the back of Gernot and JDS. Oh no, Nick Bell just had a little half spin there going into the carousel, so unfortunately going to lose even more lap time. That's Barry West that's going to be going around him there side by side, and that was for position, so move Barry up into 15.
No more Big Cat on the car, though, but I think let's stick with that moniker anyways, as Barry comes around up through the higher part of the track now and has gained up to 15th. So doing a pretty good job after starting from 18th here, although we saw quite a few heroics last season where he was getting top fives even.
Yeah, you know, and I think that it really depends track to track. I know that certain drivers, they circle tracks on the schedule, and they really look forward to them, but not every single week is one of those tracks that every driver gets along with, maybe unless you're Togo Hisada in the 49s. He seems to go fast at everything, but check this out. JDS in the yellow, number 9, has caught the back of Vandenberg, but from what we saw on Vandenberg versus Ackerman earlier, I think that Timothy's got a much lower downforce setup, and here on the straightaway, Jack David Spickett's going to find that out.
Yeah, and look at him. He is pulling away. He's trying to stay right in the tire tracks. You can see the car is bouncing. They're going so fast along here. It looks billiard smooth, but it is a rough track, even with the repaves that they've had over certain sections. And now, well, that's strange. Not sure why he's trying to duck out of the slipstream there, and they're going to separate fully. I have to ask Joey, what was the track that you always circled in your racing days?
That I liked or disliked?
Liked, I would say.
Well, so most of my stuff was in North America, and I kind of had a top 3, but I loved VIR, right? I loved Mid-Ohio. I really liked Road America, and you kind of look at those tracks. They're all older classic tracks here in North America, and they're fast and narrow.
It's a big slide from JDS coming through Sabine Schmitz, but he's going to get away with it. He'll stay in that 6th position, at least for now, as they weave their way through High Oaks. This is on the run through Fiddlebacher Hoa here pretty soon. This is the last lap of the race. If he's going to make it happen, he's going to have to make it happen soon. And on top of things, he will have to put some distance because the end of the lap is down the Dodino Hoa. And with him not having the speed, he's going to have, I would wager, at least a 1.5 seconds over him.
It's going to be very, very difficult for JDS to pull it off, for sure. Now, this is Chris Roberts getting by Nick Bell. I think Nick just kind of lifted off of the gas right there, wants to make sure he survives. What'd you call it? Survival mode is what this number 17 is in right now. But Chris Roberts actually isn't that far off of Barry West. So the trailing end of the pack still racing, for sure.
Nathaniel Croker, who took the time to pause and help out his fellow driver, almost kind of shades of Niki Lauda's accident here, where others stopped to try and save him from his accident, although definitely not as scary with these cars. Nathaniel has continued on, unfortunately, I think because he took so much time trying to help Robert Simpkins. He's about 2.5 minutes behind Nick Bell, the next car up. So unless there's more wrecks, 18th is the best he's going to see.
This is Gary Ho, the very, very last car still running right now, currently working lap number 5. He was involved in an incident early on, but was able to get that thing fixed back up and out there on the racetrack with his classic yellow and purple helmet. The other yellow car right here, though, is Jack David Spickett. He's going to poke the nose, but just not an opportunity there. Can he get the traction coming out? You see Vandenberg really lock up going in. It's all about the exit, and JDS is right under the wing.
He wants this spot. He knows it's going to be important that he get by. Another big slide there as the car struggles so close to the rear wing. All the downforce being taken off of the car. They're going to accelerate for a brief bit through Lauda Links and up towards Bergwerks. But I think from here, it's going to swing right back to the 14 car having the advantage with the straight line speed.
I just don't see how Jack David Spickett is going to make a pass from here through the next half mile or so. He is going to literally attach the rope to the back end of Vandenberg and hope that he can just get pulled along with the slipstream a little bit, maybe make a lunge going into the brake zone at the end of this thing. But right now, JDS is even looking for the oars inside. Get out and start rowing.
Unfortunately, it's not enough. He's swimming upstream, if you will, and Timothy Vandenberg is going to put himself well out of arm's reach just in the run up to Stylstrecke. And up in front of them, worth mentioning, they're not that far behind Gernot Friesche. There he is in that blue and white machine flashing past us.
So they were very, very close to Gernot. Oh my goodness, there was the little mistake out of Vandenberg going into the carousel, but just not quite close enough for JDS to capitalize. I was going to make the comment that Gernot Friesche is on a little bit more of a medium, higher downforce setup, Joe. So along the straightaways, he's getting eaten up. Vandenberg just cuts that lead in half.
Oh, sorry. I think we may have cut away before it was there. Jack David Spickett is trying to go too wide. We need to cut back to that one. There he is. He's going to get the pass done. We knew it would take something gutsy. And JD, yes, with a phenomenal pass on Timothy Vandenberg.
I was seeing that as well, and it wasn't just one corner. It was multiple corners that he put that front tire right there, and thankfully Vandenberg gave him enough room.
That was lick the stamp and send it stuff from Jack. I can't believe he made that work. And credit to Timothy for giving him the space. Topi Kortiniemi, in the meantime, we do have to watch his finish. He's got about 9 seconds over Juho Raina. Haven't really shown this black number one a whole lot. Well, there's just not a lot going on other than him picking them up and putting them down here today. Looking for his first win of the season. Topi Kortiniemi comes in to show he has not lost it at all here in the Sunday Grand Prix Series, where the car slows up into Hohenron. Just a little bit of a slide there. Nothing for a Finn to worry about as they're used to that. And he'll take the finish and the checkered flag winning at the ring.
A very beautiful drive from Mr. Kortiniemi. This car right here, Juho Raina, will finish in second place. Got about 30 seconds before Lino crosses the line. Let's take a look at this move from JDS on Vandenberg here, Joe.
All right. Now, this is why I'm screaming out. Look at that last second. He thought maybe there is an opportunity in there. He gets rebuffed once, but he isn't dissuaded. He goes for it again into Vipperman and slices past. That is highlight reel, top 10 stuff.
And I thought what was clutch out of all of that is we watch Leno finally cross the line and round out our podium. But after he put the front axle in there twice, he went way around the outside, left plenty of room for Vandenberg, even if he had an understeer moment. That was heads-up driving.
Gutsy and fair game to both the drivers for giving each other enough space, as Bjorn Ackerman will come around, and an 8th place finish I don't think really says the story. I mean, that was a great drive from Bjorn. His speed was there, just unfortunately lost a bit of it at times.
We watch Karthik Pai come across the line. I think that Karthik Pai is going to be our biggest mover, plus 14, qualified way back there in 24th position. So tremendous job out of that number 6.
So these are the unofficial results, as we still have a few drivers that are wrapping up, but here is our top 10 with Topi Kortiniemi taking the win over Juho Raina, his third second place of the season. Mikko Leno was P3, and Gernot Friesche gets himself a 4th place. Jack David Spickett, not to be held back at all. He gets himself a top 5 with a last lap pass. Timothy Vandenberg was the one he overtook, who still goes to 6th from 10th place. Ryan Turcotte was 7th, and Bjorn Ackerman P8. Then it was John Olsen in the 9th position. Karthik Pai will round out your top 10.
In 11th, we have Jean-Francois Boscus, followed up with Danilo Sanfilippo in 12th. Adam Klatska finishing in 13th. Yanni Lehman in 14th, and then Barry West finishing 15th. Really led this trio across the line, only about a half second separating each of them. Nick Bell right behind Barry in 16th. Chris Roberts finishing in 17th, and then Nathaniel Croker will finish in 18th. Gary Ho will probably finish on the lead lap in 19th, and then the rest of the names here: Nathan Finnegan, Steve Bycroft, Daniel Gallus, Rolly Wallbank, Robert Simpkins, all unfortunately did not see the checkered flag today.
Yep, Croker and Ho, the last two to finish here that are just working their way around to the line. Seeing if we can get Topi in before we take off here. I'm sure he's having to maybe wipe some sweat off his brow after running around there. Not sure that AC is very common over in Finland, so during the summer, I'm sure trying to be fast around the ring is going to leave him in a pool of water around himself.
I'll second that. When we talk about the Nürburgring, it's such a mentally demanding racetrack, and then you put these cars on them, and if the drivers have that force feedback cranked up on those direct drive wheels, These cars have a ton of downforce, they make a lot of grip, and are extremely high speed, so not only mentally challenging for the last 45 minutes, but probably physically sweating as well.
No doubt. Speaking of those Finnish drivers, let's see. Top three. Yeah, another all-Finnish podium here with Topi, Juho, and Mikko. Does look like we've got at least Barry West to chat with. Why don't we see how the Big Cat felt about this race. Barry, it was a 15th place today. Still a gain from where you started, but I know it wasn't perfect. What's your take on how this one went?
Well, it's just all about qualifying here, and what with the tyres at the beginning of qualifying, it's you can't get your realistic time laps in. I don't know where the guys get below sub-6s in qualifying, but anyway, yeah, that's what put me back. And then if you practice qualifying all week, you don't got to race it. So yeah, I just messed around with the setup too much and wasn't confident enough with it on that one. The race before, I was doing 601s, and this one I couldn't crack a 606. So yeah, but it was great fun. I mean, there's a few hairy moments.
You're always going to have those at the ring. Which way did you go on the downforce? Because we saw a wide variety from the drivers out there on who had high, low, or medium.
I don't know what it was. I was getting about 175 mile an hour down the slope, which I think the fast guys were doing 180 plus. So I don't know. I suppose it was fairly lowish, but I don't know. I used Jack's setup, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just learning this track, really. I mean, I've driven it enough years, but then not really practiced it, like different sections. Just managed to drive around with keeping it on, and that's all it was about really today. Just trying to keep on the track and get some points for the championship. But yeah, good race.
Great race indeed. Thank you for coming and chatting with us, and hopefully we'll see you next week at Lime Rock.
Yeah, cheers, sir.
Barry West finishing 15th. Next up, I believe Joey's caught up with Topi Kortiniemi, our winner.
Yeah, Topi Kortiniemi, first of all, congratulations on collecting a checkered flag today.
Oh, thank you.
So, unfortunately, we didn't get to cover you much because it seemed like a little bit of a lonely race for you out front. Was it just running lap after lap? Did you have any nervous moments out there?
I had a few close calls at the safety car, but even I wasn't fighting anyone, I was fighting the track.
So I have to ask you, in these types of races, do you find little things to keep you motivated? Do you go after a fast lap, or do you just try to go after perfect consistency? What is kind of your headspace like?
I was trying to get I-49 because in practice I was close. I was hoping to hit that in the race, but I guess not this time.
Well, last question I got for you. How much are you going to be showing up this season? Are we expecting to see you out there some more?
Maybe after the summer, because it's too short around these latitudes. So I might save my sim racing time for the colder months.
I totally get it. Thank you for coming out and racing with us. Is there anybody you want to say hi to?
All the guys that finished and the 49 community and you guys. Thank you.
That was Topi Kortiniemi, your winner today, driving that black number 1.
Love that he gave a shout out to the 49s. He's also a relative frequent driver over there. But we're going to wrap it up also with a big thank you to the Lotus 79 community here from us at GSRC. And thanks to the team today, Joey, Daniel, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. The next race, like I mentioned, Lime Rock Park, a complete opposite of this place, Sunday, July 7th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts listed here, including coming up next later today, the MX5 World Sim Series goes to both Monza and Snetterton, and that'll be at 3:50 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.